Starting in a nice 4-point kneeling position with wrists underneath shoulders and knees underneath hips. Coming into a nice cat and cow position. So tucking the tailbone under and then lifting it to the sky. Tucking it under, scooping through the belly, dropping the head and pushing out of the hands, and then opposite way. Again, tucking it under, really push out of those hands, scoop through the belly, and then lifting that chest, arching your spine. Again, coming into neutral after this one, nice long spine, tuck your toes, hover the knees just off the mat, and lower them down. Again, hover and lower, hover and lower, hover, lower. This time hover and hold. Lift the hips, push back into a downward facing dog. Then from here, roll yourself all the way forward, lower the knees back down. Again, lift the hips to the sky. Pike it back and roll it back forward, lower those knees. Last time, lift the hips and roll them all the way back down. Lift the tailbone, lower the belly, lift the chest and the head. Big stretch. Tuck your toes, sit back onto a child's pose. Give yourself a big stretch through that lower back. Then walking your hands forward a little bit, take your knees back a little bit and lower yourself into a cobra. Lift the chest. Then tuck the tailbone under, push back into a child's pose. Allow your weight to come forward, roll forward into your cobra. Lift the chest. Let the shoulders drop from your ears. Again, push back into a child's pose. Again, last one, roll it forward. Lift the chest, nice big cobra. And push it back into a child's pose. Bring your hands in underneath you. Then sit yourself all the way up into high kneeling. Reach your hands forward. Come back into a thigh stretch. And then all the way back up tall. Hinge straight back. And all the way back up tall. Again, hinge it back. And all the way back up tall. Last one, hinge back. And all the way back up tall. Step your right foot forward. Lengthen the leg long, heel on the mat, lift your toes to the ceiling and reach your hands forward. Big hamstring stretch here. Then roll yourself forward, bend your front knee, lift your chest and your hands. Hip flexor stretch, then push it back. Again, roll it forwards, lift the chest. And sit it back into your hamstring stretch, lifting those toes to the ceiling. Again, roll it forward, lift the chest, and back into your hamstring stretch. Last two, roll it forward, and all the way back into your hamstring stretch. Last one, all the way forward, and then pull it all the way back. Step that knee back, sit back into a child's pose. Big stretch through that lower back. Then walk your hands forward just a little. We're going to roll to your cobra. Lower the hips, lift the chest towards the ceiling. Then roll yourself back into your child's pose. And this time step your left leg forward. Straightening that knee, lift the toes to the ceiling, heel down onto the mat, big hamstring stretch. Roll forward into your hip flexor stretch, lift the hands, lift the chest. Again, sit back into your hamstring stretch. And roll forward into your hip flexor stretch, lift those hands. Again, sit it back. And rolling it forwards. Sit back, lifting those toes to the ceiling. Two more here. Reach it forward into your hip flexor stretch. And push it back into your hamstrings. Roll it forward into hip flexor stretch. Back into hamstring. This time step it all the way back in. Tuck the toes underneath you. Push up into a pike position. big stretch through the backs of those legs. You can lower those knees back down. And next section.